Hi everyone. Today's talk is going to be about Lighthouse and Lighthouse CI, which is probably one of the best tools available for doing continuous integration of different types of auditing tests like SEO performance, accessibility, general web perf as well. Um, as mentioned, my name is Michael Solati. I am a web developer by trade. I've been writing code for I guess close to a decade now. I don't like that. It makes me feel older, but whatever. I am a software engineer at Meta. I am additionally a Google developer expert for web technologies, specifically in the capabilities area. But perf and Lighthouse stuff is an area I am personally very passionate about. So I try to cover that area as well. Um, I loved the web. I grew up on the web. I remember what things were like in the 90s, in the 2000s, and now in our modern web environment. And I love it. I think it's compelling. I think it's exciting. And we have incredible tools to make amazing and compelling experiences for others. Um, Finally, I have made a lot of mistakes, and I mean a lot. So I'm hoping that maybe I can share some insights or some tips, tricks, etc., that might make the development experience easier for you guys when you go out and work on websites and web applications. I will also want to add that I do not mind being interrupted. If you have any questions or want to like ask something, as long as I can am capable of processing the question, I will do my best to answer that question. So feel free to unmute yourself and say something. And if you don't want your voice recorded, you could drop your question in the chat. I have the chat open so I can see if anything comes in and if you guys have anything you want to ask. All right, so diving into this, as users of the web, I would imagine we all know that performance matters. There's two things. No one likes to wait for something to load, and sometimes we don't have a lot of time to get something to load. Maybe we're in a rush, or our hands are a little preoccupied, or we're waiting for something, and we don't have the time to actually be on our phones. And as a software developer, you've probably heard things about how slow sites have higher drop-off rates. This is from a older state of the online something report. What does it say? The state of online retail performance report that for every second delay in a mobile page load, conversions can fall up to 20%. And that kind of stat has probably tied into other things that you've heard about. One of them is discoverability, and that mobile performance on like your web applications actually has an impact on how it is ranked in Google search. And this started in 2018 and has only become more of a determining factor. I personally think this quote by Carolina Caesar is a wonderful insight um, into how tooling seems to be a barrier to improving the quality of performance and performance doesn't end up being a main focus in development. And what she says is performance is a pillar of user experience, yet so often overlooked. Developers are having a hard time obtaining budgets for paid tooling, audits, or training. Businesses fail to see the value in pursuing improvements in critical bug fixes. The thing is as developers, we do have free tools available to us to evaluate the performance of our websites. And one of those key tools is that Google provides is Lighthouse. Now, if you've not heard of Lighthouse, I'll give you a little crash course on it. Lighthouse is an open source tool for auditing websites, and it's designed to help developers by providing opportunities and diagnostics to improve the user experience of a website. You can run it against any web page, whether it's public or requires authentication. And it has audits for things such as performance, accessibility, SEO, whether the web site can be considered a progressive web application, and more. And most importantly, you can use Lighthouse anywhere you're writing code. So Lighthouse is built into the Chrome DevTools, so you can access it there. But let's say you're not using Chrome. Let's say you're using Firefox. Well, Lighthouse is available as an extension for Chromium browsers as well as Firefox. Um, and finally, Lighthouse is available as an NPM module. So you can import it as a library into your Node.js code and run it, or run it via the command line. And so Lighthouse ends up becoming a fantastic tool for auditing sites, and it's like a spot check. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like. Sorry, now I got this menu thing. I don't know if you guys can see it. But okay, come on.
No, we still just see your
Okay.
your
No,
one
because
two
I have the
seven
like
zero zero one.
your screen is sharing thing, and I'm trying to like navigate around it. But here is a local website I have running on my machine. For those of you who haven't used Lighthouse before or Chrome DevTools, there's a keyboard shortcut. I forget what it is, but I just normally right click, view, inspect, and this opens up Chrome DevTools. And the one that you want to use for a Lighthouse test, which you may not see because it's a little hidden here, go to the More tabs, and there's Lighthouse over here. So let me embiggen this a little bit. So hopefully that is a little bit more readable. But we can see that I can generate a Lighthouse report, and it can check a few things. There is the type of device I'm going to be testing on. So whether I want to emulate a mobile device or a desktop device, the categories I want to test. So I have performance and SEO, accessibility, best practices. I'll do performance and SEO. And then I'll click Analyze Page Load, and it's going to run the Lighthouse test against my local site. So we'll let that run. Oh, I might not actually be running this. Hold on. I might not be running the code. Hold on. Okay, let me do that one more time. Okay. Okay. So we end up getting this little report on the performance and SEO results, where performance has a score of 99, SEO has a score of 100, and it provides a little bit more meaningful metrics, such as the first contentful paint, the largest contentful paint, if there was any layout shift, uh, script blocking time, a speed index score. And if I scroll down, it starts to provide some actionable things I can do. So one report it's saying is that I have a potential savings of 191 kilobytes because I have a few of these images here that if I compress them, I can go from these three images taking 230 kilobytes, get it down to 190 kilobytes. And it provides more information like eliminate render blocking resources. So there's a CSS script it's saying is a problem. I could minify my JavaScript. And so it's kind of giving me like tips I can use to improve the performance of my website. And so, like I said, this is great for doing a spot check because it's built into Chrome. I can run it whenever I want. But that also involves me actually running it when I remember to run it versus maybe having Lighthouse included as part of my everyday development experience. And so that's where a tool like Lighthouse CI comes in. So Lighthouse CI is a suite of tools for using Lighthouse during your continuous integration process. And you do this by asserting against Lighthouse continuously so you can catch any regressions in performance of your website before it becomes too unruly. Now, Lighthouse CI can be used with a bunch of common CI tools like GitHub Actions, Travis CI. I think Circles, there's a bunch of them that's actually available. And Lighthouse CI automates the testing of your site on every single commit that you push up. Now, I kind of showed you what Lighthouse looks like locally, but let me show you what Lighthouse CI would actually look like. Wait one second. Oh, I did not know. Okay, kill that. So up here, I have a GitHub repo, which actually hosts the code for this project. And I'm just going to re-push up this commit, and we're going to see Lighthouse CI run against it. So yeah, I think this should work. No, probably not. Um, Okay, so this is the same exact code and project that I showed running in the browser that I ran Lighthouse against. I made a very simple change, just adding a period to this JavaScript file, just so I can push up a commit and we can see what that change actually looks like on GitHub. So on the GitHub repo, I can see that there's the new commit, and I can see that, hey, there's the status for this commit. If I look at it, I can see that I have Lighthouse CI running here. We'll go to the details, and we'll see that it cloned the project, installed the dependencies, and now it's running Lighthouse CI. And I'll dive into what actual running Lighthouse CI looks like, but I want you guys to see like what this ends up looking like when I push code up to GitHub and part of that CI process. Run one, run two. It's going to run the test 3 times and use an average score between them. So that'll take another second. Okay. So it ran the assertions, and you can see that it provided a link to view the Lighthouse results. Open here, open the report. And if I open the report, make that a little bit bigger, you can see some of the similar type of scoring that I showed you before. Performance was at 99, accessibility is at 94, best practice is at 96, and SEO is at 100. If I scroll down, I start to see similar results that we saw when we ran Lighthouse in the browser. And similar feedback as I would expect, because this is just the same project, same site. And so here we can minimize the images. And getting to really look at what that looks like after that commit is pushed, we can see the status message on the commit. It's a green check mark, but we can view the actual report here because it's been added as a status badge. And I can see the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO of this commit right here inside of the commit status messages. And if I click details, it'll take me to the report like I showed you guys before. And so what we actually end up getting to test, and I invite you guys to visit this URL. It shows you how to set up Lighthouse CI. I'll leave it up for like 5 seconds, then I'm going to switch tabs. Okay, actually, I'm going to leave that up while I get a question. Sorry. Rivas, I'm sorry, I just see your question now. Any chance there's a Husky integration for pre-commits? A baked-in one? No. Can you include one? Yes. I don't know if you'd want to, but you definitely can. And I will kind of show you how you can do that in a second. I will kind of get there, so bear with me. Okay. So if you go to that link that I showed on the screen, it takes you to this getting started guide. And really the first and simplest thing that you need is a Lighthouse RC file. It can be a JavaScript file, it can be a JSON file. There's a lot of different file types, and you just copy and paste this and it'll kind of just work automatically. And then there are little shortcuts and command scripts that you can use if you want to do this with GitHub Actions, Travis, whatever. So this is a GitHub Actions workflow that checks out the project, uses nodes, installs, builds the project, and then runs the Lighthouse CI test against it. And so if I go to my code, I can see I have a little bit more of a complex Lighthouse RC file, and I will share this with you guys later, but there's a few things that you should know about. There's like a few things that you can actually configure for the Lighthouse CI test. So the first one is collect, and what collect allows you to do is it says which URLs you want to test. So right now I'm only testing one URL, which is the home page because it's the only one. But if I wanted to test other pages as well, I could just provide the URLs here. So add an about page. I don't have one, it'll fail, but I could do that. I can tell Lighthouse CI how to actually start my server. So I have a server start command, npm run start prod. And then we have assertions. So assertions are key to audit IDs that Lighthouse tests against. And eventually you guys will be able to look at this file. I have the URL so you can see all the things you can test against, and it has some of the default tests. But here specifically, I am testing against these four categories, and I can have it either throw an error, throw a warning, or completely ignore this test. So in these cases, if my score drops underneath 90, I'm going to throw an error. I'm going to flag it. I'm going to fail this test because I'm trying to hold this site to a little bit of a higher standard. If you wanted to just throw a warning instead of throwing an error, you would just switch this to warn, and that would work just fine. And you can, yeah. Um, then there are options for where you want to store the results. So if I was running this on GitHub, which I kind of showed you guys, so I got the okay. That is not it. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. So we can see over here that um, when I go to the view the results here, it takes me to this URL storage.google APIs, Lighthouse infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. And this is actually Google hosting the result for me. And I think they'll store the results for 3 months. I think it's 3 months. So you could view the detailed report, but if you wanted to store the results on your own server, you can do that, and you would set the configuration for the upload here. But like even if the after 3 months passes and that results like file is deleted, the scores still remain here, so you can have that audit score right there for you. Um, okay, so let me actually show you how this could work if, sorry, the Chrome. Let me show you how this would end up looking like, let's say, if I was to fail this test. Um, and I have a bit of code over here that I've commented out. This is a blocker script that I am going to be adding to this. And if we look at the blocker script, we can see that it just iterates from 0 to 100,000 and just logs the number. Does anyone have any idea why this could be problematic? Um, I invite you to interrupt me. I invite you to spit it out, and if not, I will gladly share. But I want to give you guys a chance to think about why this is bad.
Because it's blocking.
Yes, it is blocking. Console log ends up becoming is an impure function because it ends up depending on external resources. Maybe external resources isn't the best way to describe it. But it is an impure function that trying to think of the best way to describe the differences between pure and impure. Um, I'll just leave it as that like it doesn't it has side effects, I think, is and that like modifies state or something like that, which I think is a common understanding of one of the differences between pure and impure functions. And as a result, if the console is actually open and you ran this, this will end up blocking and seizing the console. So I've added the script back in. Let me run it. So npm run start. The second to kick up. Okay. So if I go to the console here, let's refresh the page. Why is that not running? Should be. Okay, let's try that again. Refresh. You can see it's kind of chugging as it worked its way up to the 99,999. And so if I ran my Lighthouse test against this now, here are the results. We're just going to do performance, analyze page load. Okay, there we go. We see the performance drop to 57 seconds. And if I end up looking at why, we see, hey, there's a render blocking resource that took about 8 seconds to run. And what is that? Uh, it actually is the blocker.js. The simple CSS isn't the issue, but it's our blocker.js file that's causing that issue. So let's say if I was working on this project and I accidentally pushed up this code. So let's git add, git commit blocker, and git push. And so this is going to run that Lighthouse CI test on the server, but because that might take a few minutes, I recorded a video of it running ahead of time. So let me just show you what that video would look like. This. So this is hypothetically if I was to add that blocker.js file, push it up, it runs the test, and then we'll see how this goes. I just sped this up. This is basically how the test would actually run. Um,
I have a quick question.
yeah,
Are we going to talk about how it treats async operations?
we can. Give me a second.
Okay.
I don't think I was going to cover that, but we can discuss that if you'd like.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I know you know we're always trying to load data and up on first paint and whatnot. So I wonder how that's weighted.
We will get there. We will get there. I will try to answer that, yeah, I will try to answer that. Bear with me though. So if I push up that commit, we could see that, oh, the score of the performance side of things ended up dropping. And if we actually, hopefully it actually ran already up here. And so, no, it hasn't run yet. So what'll end up happening is once this test is actually done, is this commit will have a red X on it, letting me know like, hey, this commit actually broke something, which ends up being really useful that if I'm going through a long list of commits that I had pushed up to my project to see where did things end up breaking, identifying it, and then kind of getting that meaningful report as to why that ended up breaking. Let's see, this should hopefully be done in a second. All right, so it ran, it showed the failure. So if I go back to the code, I see that failure test and I see failed one assertion, click on the details, and it provides the report. And this is kind of the same thing that we saw locally um, when I ran Lighthouse on the actual website I was running locally. So um, if you guys want to check out this project and website, which includes some of the information, like the configuration stuff, this is the URL. And I want to kind of dive into, was it Rivas who asked the question or was it someone else? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was wondering if asyncs weighted.
Uh, can you give me a little bit more of an example? You mean uh, like deferred scripts?
Yeah.
So I believe the way Lighthouse will run is until
Or is it
I'm
just
actually not.
blocking anything that's blocking?
I'm trying to think about how to answer your question. It'll provide. I don't know because I'm not sure. Scripts that are deferred can have an impact on the results, but unless it's blocking, it's not going to have a significant impact because it's going to wait for like first contentful paint, last contentful paint, or LCP, sorry. And when the page says it's done loading, which is I think when some of the deferred scripts will start to execute after that fact. But I could be I probably am mistaken with that. I've not had to think about that question. I am sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, like Next.js, they're pre-rendering stuff, so you could have something and then load in after. So I wonder if they're trying to solve that problem, or
Because I think it'll also pay attention to. Hold on.
sorry,
Let's
I didn't
let's.
want to go into.
No, this is a fine question. Let's go to the Lighthouse docs. Uh, where's the AI chatbot? There used to be an AI. No, it's not on their Chrome site yet. Um, I might not be able to answer that question for you. I'm sorry to say. Yeah, I'm going to say I can't answer that question, but I'm sure there
It's just
is an
first
answer.
paint, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Though, if you actually look at where is it? Here, and this is on in the repo. If you go to the Lighthouse RC file, there's a link to this. And if I scroll down to the performance categories, these are all the categories I could be testing for. So yes, there's first contentful paint and first meaningful paint, but we have CPU idle, which actually will have an impact in what you were asking about the defer stuff. What else do we have that might be relevant? No, there's network server. No, I don't
Oh,
think that
maybe
would be.
network requests. Maybe that's
Yeah,
related.
because I think some of these will are not built into the some of the default category areas, and so you can also manually add tests for these, or manually add these to your tests as well. And then there's other areas. It's not just for the performance, but I think these are the main things for performance that you were interested in.
Okay,
And
cool.
so,
I'll look into it. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't ready for that question. But if you go to the repo, it's github.com, Michael Solati, LHCI-0-100. Um, there is the Lighthouse RC file, and you can find the link and the information for like all the things you can configure to test against. Uh, yeah, sorry I couldn't be better, but hopefully that's good enough. Um, does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, Kevin, I see you dropped a link. And so regarding this async or deferred scripts, Kevin shares, I think it depends on what the defer script is going to do to the page in the context of the scores. He provided a URL. It's in the chat if you guys want to check it out. Cumulative layout shift is probably a strong possibility if you're dumping in a bunch of changes in the script. And yeah, I think that makes sense. So thank you for looking that up for us.
Oh, I
Okay.
did have a question though.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, the link is the same thing you just showed us about what tests are important to you, but that's cool because you could change the weight of it instead of using the default weights that are in that link. But I wanted to ask you, what do you believe is like the difference between Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights? Like, which one should I use for what? Like, they seem very similar, so.
Yeah, no, that is a fair question. I think when I think of page speed insights, I think of more in regards to like for SEO purposes, and there is definitely overlap. Um, I don't have a good answer to your question. I'm sorry. I will say page speed. I know that page speed insights does use Lighthouse for generating some of the scores and testing it has. So I would say it's built on top of Lighthouse, but Lighthouse I think is more bare bones for developers to use. Whereas I think Speed Index provides more, PSI provides information that may be more relevant to SEO related stuff. But there is a lot of overlap because PSI is dependent on Lighthouse.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll put the link here in case anyone was wondering what I was talking about. But it's like very similar in the metrics. Thank you.
Yeah, so here's a fun fact. I used to work on, Kevin shared a link to pagespeed.web.dev. I actually used to work at Google specifically on the web.dev website. So yeah, my name is Michael Solati. I am available on the web on all of these platforms, and I am still open to questions, comments, etc.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, my original question was, if is there any Husky integrations for that?
So not that I know of, but Husky is just like you would be able to define additional scripts you want to run or commands you want to run before like commits are actually made, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, if that's the sort of thing that you're looking to do, one, you can define in your package, like actually, let me check something real quick. Um,
Yeah, because I know a lot of people are trying to protect from bad commits that are going to
yeah.
fail anyways in the pipeline.
So I just need to look at syntax for how I would add a hook. So, okay, so that's an example of Husky hook right here, right? So it's husky rc.json. Husky JSON. So let's say if I wanted to have a pre-commit hook, I would still need to set up my Lighthouse RC, say what to test, what to do, etc. So check against these URLs. Here's my assertions. And for my Husky pre-commit, it would just be npx LHCI, and that is it. And so now pre-commit, it'll run the Lighthouse CI test against it based on these configurations. I think the only thing that you might want to do is make sure that your server start command or something like does the build for the website as well, if that's something that you need, or you can include it in here like npm run build and then run the npx Lighthouse CI test. And this would theoretically work to do what you wanted. Does that help / answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Something I didn't really show is how to actually just run Lighthouse CI as a command line tool, because the workflows that they provide kind of just show you how to do that. But really all it is just like npx LHCI. Another thing that I didn't show, which is kind of useful, or is it just not? Whatever. That's the general idea. If you look at the docs, you can get it. What is the actual command I use? Oh, Lighthouse CI auto run. Okay, so it wasn't just LHCI, it's LHCI auto run, and that'll just run it. So another thing I didn't show is that the commit badges that are being assigned to the repository, um, like these things, it's actually because of a GitHub app, a Lighthouse CI app that I have installed to my GitHub account. And I'm just going to show that real quick because it's something that you guys might want if you want to see the actual scores like this instead of just seeing this where it says the push failed. So I have that video. So if you go to the Lighthouse CI repo, you go to the Getting Started section, they provide a way to install the GitHub app. So there's the install and authorize. So you would click install instead of configure here. You would give it access to whatever organization or account you wanted to have access to. And then it'll generate a environment variable, which I have hidden there. But you would just then set this LHCI GitHub app token as like a secret or environment variable in your project. And that way, Lighthouse CI will just look for that environment variable. And if it sees it, it'll then be able to attach the results as a status badge. So that's a little detail I did not go over, but I think is useful if you guys want to have those status badges that actually include the scores like this instead of just seeing if it passed or failed. Oh, okay. I guess that is it. Nolan, I will pass it back to you if you want to take over.
Sure. I have one more question for you, actually, if you wouldn't mind. I assume kind of along the lines of the Husky integration, or the actually the script you're using to run NPM servers in here. Can I run a Docker container in my setup and have it point it to
Yeah, it doesn't
that?
matter. It doesn't matter where it's running, so
Yeah.
long as you provide it. So long as the server is running and you tell Lighthouse CI which URLs to point at, and you can start to get a little bit more complex. And I actually think it's kind of cool because some of the configurations you can tell it like which version of Chrome or Chromium to run if you have one running locally, or you can run Puppeteer scripts. So if you have to do interactions before you test a page, like sign into a page, you can provide that as well. So it doesn't really care where this is being hosted. Like I could have ran the test against google.com. It doesn't care. All I really need to provide is the URLs and how to access or start the server. And it doesn't have to be an NPM script, though it's easier that way.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Michael while we have him? Going once, going twice.
I do have one question, and maybe this is like too broad a question, but when you run Lighthouse and it gives you like the best practices opinions, is there anything in there that you think is really important, or anything that you personally think should be added to those practices?
No, though these practices have changed as the what are they called? Core Web Vitals have changed or whatever. And like they've kind of been iterations on the same concepts for performance, just kind of better identifying them. I will also say is that like Lighthouse results aren't the end all be all. I think a tool like this is awesome for catching regressions, but you going from 82 to 78 is not that big of a deal, in my opinion, in performance. But you going from 82 to 52, that's a big deal. Or if you see during the course of time that score is going down, that's a big deal. But if we're talking fluctuations of a point or two, I would not worry about that. Another thing that I actually think it does really well, though, is the accessibility testing, because accessibility is one of those areas that doesn't get enough attention during the development process. Because I'm going to make the broad assumption, and I think we'd agree that most of us don't depend on screen readers or tools like that, so we don't think about developing for people who have that need. And this makes it super easy to know, like, hey, these are areas that you're lacking that you could, hopefully it's not that much work for you to do to make the experience better for those who might struggle with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Benny. I'm really glad you just mentioned that about accessibility testing, because I just produced with the team a lot of documents specifically for accessibility using Adobe. I'm going to pass along this information to several people who specialize in the accessibility testing area. But thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, no, it's one of the areas I did not normally think about until like a few years ago when I ended up working on projects that have a larger reach and impact. So it's something I won't say I'm passionate about it, but I'm cognizant and I know it's important and I want to do my best in that area.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I hope thanks slash that's it, Nolan, if you want.
That's it. Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome back anytime. That was fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. The next meeting will be third Wednesday in October. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I promise we have it already scheduled. If you'd like to learn more about the meetings, you can go to sacinteractive.com. We're also on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, all as SAC Interactive Tech Meetup. Michael, thanks again. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.